Okay. Laura Stott is the author of 3 books of poetry, most recently The Bear's Mouth, published by Lynx House Press last October, Blue Nude Migration, a poetry and painting collaboration with her sister, Catherine Buxton, and In the Museum of Coming and Going. Her poems have been published in various journals and anthologies, including Swim, River Heron Review, Mid-American Review, Elysium Review, and Terrain.org, where she was also nominated for a Pushcart Prize. In 2020, Laura received a Mayer Award in the Literary Arts from Ogden City. She's interested in eco-poetics, surrealism, and the intersection of the arts. At Weber State University, she teaches poetry, creative writing, and co-teaches the interdisciplinary class Poetry and Printmaking, which is fantastic. I've taken it. It's wonderful. She lives in northern Utah with her husband and daughters, where she loves to hike, garden, and nerd out over dahlias. I first met Laura Stott at the National Undergraduate Literature Conference at Weber State University, where she was interviewing guest speaker Louise Gluck. She asked Gluck then about the value of letting poetry and daily personal life bleed into each other, and while Gluck's response was surely a good one, I have found a more complete, more honest answer in the way that Stott lives and interacts with the world around her. I had the privilege of sitting in her classroom as she embodied this, as, like her writing, she made space for wonder, celebrated beautiful language, expanded the borders of the world, and sat quietly, patiently, faithfully, with the vulnerability that her medium demands. In her hands, poetry is a vehicle for grief and goodness, and the lines between visual and literary art are drawn together and blurred. Put simply, because she is an extraordinary person, she is also a phenomenal poet. Please join me in welcoming Laura Stott.
Okay, thank you so much, Paige. That was really nice. It's so nice to have you to do the introduction here. I was so excited to hear that. You guys are lucky to have Paige. I thank you so much for having me. Thank you, BYU, and it really is an honor to come here and do a reading because I went to BYU. I graduated in 2001, and I just basically just told you all how old I am, but I don't know. It feels like another lifetime ago, but this place is dear to my heart. So. To start us off, I'm going to tell you a story. So I spent a decade of my life going up to Alaska and working in the summers. It started, I think my first summer up there was my last summer before my last semester of college, and so I would. I spent a lot of time hiking. That was my main job, was a hiking guide, and I still, it's just sort of a part of our marriage. My husband knows that every few years we need to go up and visit. And so this book, The Bear's Mouth, there are actually quite a few bears in here. I got obsessed. And so there is a lot of Alaska imagery in the book. I did write about it some in my time that I was up there, but I feel like it was when I didn't have it anymore that I started writing more about Alaska, and I just couldn't get away from the bear for a little while. But one of those trips that we took up later, my oldest daughter, she was, I think just about a year and a half old. And she had this habit, I think, just out of her routine where she was waking up at night while we were traveling, and the only thing that would really calm her down and get her to go back to sleep would be to take her outside, and that cold Alaska air would kind of hit her face and she would immediately just chill out. And it was nice to go outside in the middle of the night in Alaska. And so this one night when I was out there and I saw a bear out on the lawn, and I was like, oh, there's this bear right in front of me, and got my daughter back to sleep, kind of crept back inside the house that we were staying at, and I woke up my husband and I was like, Jake, there's a bear outside, you gotta come see this. And just remember that in Alaska at 2 a.m. it's starting to get light. So and we're looking out the window and he said, that's not a bear. And I said, yes it is. And he's like, no, it's not. And I looked closer, and he was right. It was just this patch of grass that was like growing wildly over a pipe coming out of the ground. So, but but in Alaska, there's always a bear, even when there isn't a bear. So I think that you're kind of constantly doing that. So when you're hiking, you're looking and you're kind of like, is that a bear over there? And then after a while, you say, no, that's a bear rock. But sometimes there is the bear, but it's something you're always thinking about, and it's always in the back of your mind, which was different from me growing up here. I mean, I know we do have bears in Utah, but I never thought about it when I was a kid. And we spent a lot of time camping and out in the wilderness, but and maybe I should have been thinking about it, but it wasn't this omnipresent thing. So, and I feel like I should preface that a lot of this book, a number of the poems in here are dealing with grief, and so I have 3 daughters, and my second daughter was stillborn, and I lost her when I was at 22 weeks, and so a lot of what I really wrote myself through that grief and what I was going through, and so there is that theme, and not all of the poems are sad, but I will probably read a couple of them that are, but I just kind of wanted you to kind of know that story ahead of time. But I think that's part of the bear's presence in the book became the bear became a couple of different things. Sometimes the bear is a mother, sometimes the bear is this creature that is like guarding the underworld, that other world that it's between me and my daughter who I want to be with. And so it shifts and changes. But I wanted to start with the poem that tells that story. And if you've been to City Creek Mall in Salt Lake, then you'll know where I'm talking about at the beginning of the poem. The Bear's Claw. You're downtown in an unnamed city. If you step out of your body and look around, you can see it, the bear. Next to the creek that winds through a shopping mall, trout swimming above the glitter of nickels and pennies, wishes from pockets and purses, gifts for gods. There's the bear, fishing one out, a trout. He's ripping it apart on the concrete. World peace, a daughter to come home, a cruise in the Caribbean. I wish she would say yes. Once, in the middle of the night, the bear was on the lawn, Alaska. I was up with a restless baby, only calmed by cold air. It was starting to get light, but it was only 2 a.m., the kind of light only the north brings and mist from the ocean. I sang that hymn, a lullaby, and she fell asleep against my body, my back to the house, my face to the bear, trying to see it in the growing dream, slowly taking shape in the dying night. Which foot to put in front of the other, which threshold to turn to, the door left open behind me, the wild lapping against the shore in front, a child sleeping heavy against my heart. Okay. I marked probably too many poems to read, so I'm just going to decide as we go. This one's titled Monster. Spider webs by the back door funnel into a black cave, a silk and nocturnal universe where a fanged creature waits for the moon's threaded children, a moth, a mantis fly, to step gently into the tangle of reflection. Mother spider wraps her legs lovingly around all her young and whispers, "This is the earth you are waiting to be born into. Dream of the wings you'll eat and kingdoms between roses." Ink. The tattoo I don't have is of a million birds hidden on my body, a million birds with dark wings or bright wings traveling across vast oceans to a nesting place. They are somewhere no one can see them on my body. They are singing sudden in the sunlight, the chickadee perched sideways on the porch railing, the smallest hummingbird investigating the mouth of a flower. The terns that fly from one hemisphere to another, their sharp bone butterfly wings darting over the fjord, the cranes there painted on the skin of air flying above your head, a primal sound in their throats, a million years. The raven in Alaska that hops behind cars in the rain and disappears into the mist of a strip mall parking lot just disappears while a woman and a child chase it. The blue heron that holds still in the water, great and still, waiting for a small silver fish to swim into its shade and rest in the cool of its captor's body that is somewhere in the pond of my body, only to be swallowed whole as fast as you can blink. I have a thing for birds. Okay. All right, so this next poem is a pantoum, so there's a lot of repetitions. There are lines that get repeated. The title is Beneath. Who breathes out a sigh like the largest living animal on earth? I say she is a well gliding through the fjord, a canyon, holding the depth of an ocean, because I don't know how else she might have looked. She is a well, gliding through the fjord, a canyon. She is my daughter, a brown-haired wander, because I don't know how else she might have looked. A creature below the surface of everything. She is my daughter, like her sisters, another brown-haired wonder. I remember sitting on a rocky shore in a past life, evening, while a creature swam below the surface of everything. I watched the light blinking across the fjord, the other side of a rocky shore in a past life. Even then, I could hear the whale sing, the sound of her coming up for air across the fjord, like a light signaling on the other side. A forever wonder, the sound of that voice. I could hear a whale sing, but not the sound of my baby coming up for air. Here is a blanket that once held her body. I will forever wonder what her voice would have sounded like. I pull a box down from the shelf that holds everything, a blanket that once held her body. The texture of it on my fingertips is all I have left. I pull a box down from the shelf that holds everything, a container for her after she died inside me. The texture of my own fingertips is all I have left. Suddenly, a blue jay wakes the world as a container for her after she died inside me. Sometimes I want to believe it's her on the trail I'm hiking, a sudden blue jay that wakes the world, like the wells that surface to let us know they are there. Sometimes I want to believe it is her on the trail hiking. I'm here. How beautiful it all is. Like the wells that surface to let us know they are there. All the moments I wish I could go back and live again. I'm here. How beautiful her sister's laughter. My baby's fingers were pressed together like a Buddha. All the moments I wish I could go back and live again. I would ask the nurse to monitor the heartbeat until its last. My baby's fingers were pressed together like a Buddha, who breathes out a sigh like the largest living animal on earth. Okay, sometimes I don't make it through that one without getting teary, but I did great. I'm going to kind of shift tone a little bit. So this poem is dedicated to a friend of mine. His name's Dylan. We used to work together up in Alaska, and the last time we were up there visiting, I heard from his mouth about how he got mauled by a bear, and so he survived it, obviously, but it's a true story. And I sent him a copy of the poem, and I was like, "Did I get it right? Is this like did I get any of these facts wrong?" And he said it was fine. He said I did kind of get the feeling that the bear was a male, but I don't really know. And I said okay, because it's a I don't know. I had kind of a female bear thing going on in the book, so. It's a she in this poem. Okay, talking to the bear. After the bear grabs his leg with its mouth, shakes him around, drags him a bit, finally lets go, starts to circle him on the ground. My friend talks to the bear, even as the bear's teeth break his leg. Hey, it's cool, bear, be cool. After the circles get wider, he reaches to his backpack, still on his back, going for the bear spray, and the bear charges him again, stops short, and face to face opens her mouth wide and roars. Point made. Okay, I understand. The bear circles him again. She doesn't eat him. She just wants him to know who is in charge. Late October. No one else is on the trail. He's 7 miles in. The paw print later measures at 7 inches across, just a juvenile. He makes a splint, irrigates the wound, the place where the teeth sank in, and makes his way to a cabin and a radio that only sends back static, but wakes to the sound of a helicopter the next morning. I think the roar alone would stop my heart. I walk into the woods by myself, Alaska rain, evening. It's the kind of forest someone dreamed up. Moss a foot thick, ferns and dwarf dogwood on the floor, blooms that are perfect stars to navigate back in time. I may never return. A hermit thrush calls its beautiful call like a meadowlark, but sadder. Another thrush answers. I look deep into the green on all sides of me and watch. Talk to the bear. Okay. So I was debating about reading this one. It's long, but I a couple of times my husband's a musician and we've done kind of a collaboration, and I've had him backing me up with some kind of ambient guitar noise that comes in halfway through, and I almost made him come today because something about to do that, but it just didn't work out. But I sometimes when I read it without the guitar, I'm not sure how I feel about it anymore, but here we go either way. So one thing I'll tell you, there's 2 bear stories in here. When one of my colleagues found out that I was interested in bears and writing about them, he started emailing me links to all these bear stories every time he would come across one. And I did actually end up using a couple. They were really fascinating. And one of the stories happened to my father. So when he was a baby, my grandfather was working as a land surveyor, and they were up in northern Idaho, and this cabin that they were living in, a bear came through the open window and walked right over my father's crib. So that appears in here. And there was a period of time, so I knew for 6 or 7 weeks before my baby died that she wasn't going to make it. So there was this period of time where I was carrying her with that knowledge, and eventually had to make the decision to induce labor. And so some of that sneaks in here too. Before, if you pray hard enough, the miracle can happen. If you pray hard enough, you can save her life. We are only humans. We are not gods. Before the bear chose to save a lost boy, before he kept him warm in the forest, 3 years old, before he didn't eat him, put his head inside his jaws, before he kept the boy warm instead, I am not the angel my daughter sees out the window and calls a bird, "Mom, come see, come see." But we can still breathe in the sweet scent of alder and rain, and we might save the bird from dying. Here the world feels young, like all of history hasn't touched the shore yet. Only the well song, the ice song, the trees' slow whisper, the unwrapping of earth. Before war, before religion, before the glass broke, before the land gathered together, before we stood on the porch and watched the thunder and danced, before they told me my second child would die, before the king beheaded his wives, before the ice melted, before they found the mammoth in ice, before the tiger crept through the grass and was gone, before the frog song, before we stole corn, before Mom bottled peaches, pears, before she stroked my head while I cried, before we taught our daughters to dance, before a different bear and another time crept over my father's crib from an open window, before Grandma told me this story, Before the valley was filled with ghosts, before the light hit the valley early 3 a.m. and a seal came up the river with the tide. Before the rivers pumped blood into the body and before the body swelled, we were there together watching it, the light and the rain on water. Something hits the surface. On the ultrasound screen she waves. A baby sleeps while the beast crosses over its crib into the room, his baby eyes open to bear. Inside, the beast hunts for something to eat. In your blood, that river. In that room you sleep inside my body, before the fish returned, before the lost boy said to the bear kept him safe, before his mother wept and gathered him in her arms, before the beast loved as much as it tears apart the fish, the deer, the bird, before your heart stopped beating while I slept. We are not gods, not yet. Before I felt you slip out of my body onto a sheet, before the well rose to the surface and breathed air into the great long of sky, before I forgot to breathe, before the sound of jets made me jump, before the machine showed me your heartbeat, before more war, before the children were taken from the room, before their mothers knew what happened, before the border closed, before the orphans were lost, before all the mothers wept, before my father grew up and stepped out of that room with the bear behind him, before we all looked the other way, the children on our screens, in a town far from where we live now, where the shore of another country washes in. Next door, before Jesus wept, before the well went from land to water, before my daughters built castles on a beach, before Mom pushed Dad in a wheelchair through the grove, before he held the record for the 440-yard dash, before I watched him catch fish after fish, before the pilgrimage, before he taught me how to fish, before history slept in a book, before history melted into a river, the river curls like a ribbon in the sunset, and the fish feed like a dream. All of history in a hatch. Before her mouth shut a few moments after birth, all that's left feathers on the beach, in a clearing a few drops of red blood. Before the world began to spin, before the water gathered together, there we were at the edge, ready, watching the river, sunlight catching our eyes. The bear's mouth. The earth just got smaller than the brains of ants living under the tomatillo in the crack of the patio. This isn't their dream of sugar and sand. In Los Angeles, an alligator lizard soaks up sun in the backyard of Sunset Boulevard. Banana trees thrive in the city that gets smaller but has more people moving in. The coastal temperate rainforests of Tasmania and Alaska are shrinking. Spruce trees sigh undeniably blue. Next to a silver river, the lichen grows 1 millimeter per year, and the false azalea smells like skunk. But it reminds you of your childhood. All those summer nights when you opened a sliding door to the stink of an animal somewhere in the dark. The jaws of the bear unhinge. On the beaches of France, the world is larger than it has ever been. Orlando is carrying 5,000 times its weight, and those who march are filling every banquet hall with song, and sparrows carry the mantra straight into the heart. Soon, the entire world will fit inside the brown bear's mouth. Imagine stepping on the tongue. The jaws are ready, but in the belly of the bear, everyone is weeping and laughing with every neighbor we don't have. We've been walking for centuries and crawled right in. I really like putting the bear in places that you wouldn't normally find them. So here is one of those. Prayer. The congregation is sitting in their pews, heads bowed, like birds asleep, except for one or two faces that are upright, watching everyone else. A brown bear has entered the chapel. Her massive shoulders sway with each step. She carries all the weight. The man at the pulpit is still praying, blessing everyone he has ever known and everyone he doesn't, and everyone who is there and everyone who isn't. The bear sniffs a purse. She grunts, bless the meek, bless the blind. Heads are still down, and the bear stands up on its back legs for a better view. Bless the hungry. The wild is what we came here for. When she lands, it shakes the room. So this poem, I married someone who was really good at tide pulling, and I've seen creatures I never would have found on my own. So this one, by the way, so we lived in Los Angeles for a couple of years, and there is a spot there, oddly enough, near that giant city that is the best tide pulling spot I've ever been to in my life. So I'm not going to publicly announce where it is, but if you want to come talk to me privately, I'll tell you where. So, baby octopus crawling on hands. The octopus moves from behind its rock in the DC Zoo like a ghost, a slow motion illustration of how sound moves in the inner ear. The creature floats from one glass wall to another, all 8 arms filling the space with octopus, sucking us all in. Once we found one, a baby octopus that I held in the palm of my hand and watched and felt it press as close as it could into my cold skin, watched all 8 arms change to the pink color of my lifeline and callus. There it is, my life disguised as octopus. This is how to disappear. Everyone gathers round for nature's magic trick. Children press closer, parents lean over, they're at the fair, and I'm holding a fortune-telling scarab glowing with landscapes of their future. None of us know as much as we think we know. I gently touch an arm and the octopus changes to a dark ocean brown, quick and suddenly no longer a part of me, back to being something I shouldn't hold. Okay. So, right now I'm actually teaching, I was invited to teach just a 1 credit hour class, and they told me I could pick whatever topic I wanted in our honors program. And so I sent them a list of ideas, and then we both chose, I knew I wanted to do this one, but I'm actually teaching a class on odes. And so they're poems of celebration, and it's turned out to it's been so fun, and it's so nice to just go into that room and just read these poems and talk about the importance of just celebrating in our life. So this poem came out of the year 2020. It's titled Perseid Meteor Shower. We drive an hour into the mountains to get away from light to see other lights, pieces of a comet littering our atmosphere with their flare. We are going to eat pre-made s'mores and lie on blankets and stare at the stars. The kids counted 14 deer on the drive up, nervous things on the side of the road. My daughter is holding a pink pony that is 1.5 inches tall, clenched in her hand. Cousins are running all over, playing with flashlights now. I'm trying to get the 1-year-old to sleep, but this life is too exciting and she doesn't want to miss anything. Jane thinks she's lost her pony and the search party is on. A few minutes in, she's panicking. Months ago, she named the pony Heart. And now everyone is saying, "Where's Heart? Where's Heart?" With small beams of light, we are searching the earth. It feels impossible to find. Until she realizes that there the whole time the pony was tight in her small hand. So used to it being there, she didn't realize she was holding it. What a good laugh we had. She sees the first shooting star in her life, and 10 minutes later is asleep under a blanket of them. Both of my girls on either side of me. I can hear their breath while I watch the sky. One beautiful flash after another. There and gone again. The last time I saw stars like this is lost in memory. Look at that tail. I used to be afraid a meteor would hit me one day, leave a giant crater where I stand. On the drive home, a mama deer and her 2 speckled fawns run in front of our car. We slow down and watch them. I've never seen baby deer so small. And they are gone into the forest as quickly as they appeared. What luck to get to see them. What life we have to live here. How we're so used to it in our hands. So that piece is probably more of, I have a number of prose poems in the book that feel almost like little essays, but okay. I'm just going to read 2 more, and they're going to feature a whale. So, the heart of a blue whale is the size of a small car. A car I drive 70 miles an hour down a strip of concrete with everyone I love inside, with everyone I love the most inside. My husband taps his knee with a pencil while one child is singing and the other is watching her older sister intently. What will she do next? Outside the blue whale's heart, the girl sees crows, houses, a train. They name everything. The lights of houses as everyone looks past their own reflection in the window of the large heart. A blue whale's heart beats 8 to 10 times a minute. Between each beat, you can tie your shoes, recite affirmations, hold still, remember what it was you forgot. Choose your favorite song before it beats again. Sing as loud as you want, air drums all of it, with its 2-mile radius of sound. Inside the whale's artery, an adult human can swim. Imagine a heart that big, thousands of them, moving through the ocean, keeping the largest animals that ever lived on Earth alive. Animals larger than T-Rex, larger than the Loch Ness Monster. It's the largest heart that has ever existed on Earth. And you could drive it home with everyone you love inside. Okay, so I wanted to just read one poem that's not in the book, that's a little bit more newish. It's just thematically fits, and this one I wrote after, so my dad passed away almost 2 years ago, and in that time before, my mom was his full-time caregiver, and so lucky for her, all of her kids are here in Utah, and we kind of split up the week where we would each take a day and go out and spend a few hours to just give her a break, so she could leave the house if she needed to, or whatever she needed to do. And so I had, every Friday I was going out and spending all afternoon with my dad, and I would always take my kids with me. And so this poem in part kind of came out from that experience. And I also wanted to read it today because it's the birthday of my brother-in-law today, who also passed away about 2 years ago. This is something that he would have loved. So, Breach. In the Milky Way, a whale sings and swims. It bubble feeds, scoops up krill you might mistake for stars, swallows them. You didn't know there were great fish in heaven, crustaceans too, breath you can hear across the cosmos, or this water, a bay where on a boat you watch for their tails. Their bodies surfacing for a moment from dark water that could be the sky, and you could be anywhere, on the deck of a space shuttle a century from now, wearing a helmet for oxygen, watching another world, a blue marble in the distance, searching for life. This future is possible. Down the whale dives deeper into a universe where I've never been. In his kayak all day in rough seas, my friend says a humpback whale followed him for hours, would come up and look at him. He could see the eye. Just ahead of the storm, flying from one Alaska town to the next, inside the small plane, I look down to see a pod of whales feeding. I can see the spray from high above. I want to see a humpback's eye. Picture placid water. Suddenly, just a few feet from the boat, a humpback breaches a ballet turn out of the water and splashes everyone on board. What I love the most is the giant whale and its white belly. But I also love the laughter and smiles, all surprise, everyone giddy with love. Not unlike the time a shooting star came out of nowhere on a drive home. Busy highway right in the city just before my dad died. Dementia had taken his speech, but there was always a flash of recognition across his face, a smile, a wave. Every week, every drive home, I cried. I'd been with my parents all day. My girls were either sleeping in the back seat or singing. Suddenly, the length of the whole sky, I've never seen anything like it. The spectral surprise out of the darkness, a gift. The fabric ripped open where God is watching. We should expect something to surface all the time. That's it. I love just chatting. So what questions do you have? I'll take questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's a good question, and thank you. Um, so, probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that I love the natural world, so I think I do spend a lot of time in it. And I feel like so much of my writing process is about paying attention. And I feel like also I'm really interested in sort of the science of those things, and I find that like when you investigate, then it opens up the metaphor even more. Like as you learn about the world around you, then it's like those crossovers between like our lives and their lives can like there's a lot of overlap. And also I feel like I think it's important to trust as a writer that those kinds of images can carry the weight for you. So that they're, I don't know, they do. They just carry all of that emotion, and to maybe let them do it and see what emerges. So, yeah, you're welcome. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, so for me, sometimes there's something I'm teasing out, like I'm writing something and I don't want to get it wrong. And so I'll look it up. And I recently had a poem accepted where I'm like, I don't actually know if this is true. Like what I said in the opening line, is this even possible? Can an owl do that? and so, and I feel like I need to go find an ornithologist because I can't find the answer on the internet. But now I'm worrying about it. But I think sometimes it's just finding out to make sure I'm getting the facts right. And sometimes it's just out of interest. So where I'm interested in something, and so I want to read about it, and then I don't know, you come across so much fascinating information, and it's hard not to write about it. So it's definitely intertwined there. It's something that I do. But it's not, it just kind of comes up when needed, but maybe more surprisingly more often than you would think. Yeah. Okay, you were here and then we'll go back. Yeah. Hmm. Uh, yeah, that's a good question. I probably have multiple ones, but I definitely have experiences that I mean, there are times when, like when I was, I definitely got obsessed with the bear, and I don't know that it was so much of a crutch as an obsession, because sometimes things can be a crutch maybe where I just go to it naturally, but then sometimes there's something there and I keep wanting to address it in a new and different way. So maybe specific spots in Alaska, like a spot in the forest that I love or next to the ocean, but also my own backyard. In my 20s, I definitely had a lot of wanderlust, and I still love to travel, but more and more as I get older, I really just want to grow my tomatoes and my dahlias and kind of geek out over my flowers and, and just kind of love the nature that's happening just in my own space. So, and I still love to get out, but I think even just that world that's very close to home, I ground myself into. Yeah, okay, there was a hand back here and then we'll come forward. Okay. Um, define personal interaction. Yeah, yeah. So I definitely haven't. Yeah, just I spent so much time like, because I hiked for my job. I didn't actually, all of those summers, like most of the time when I was working, it was rare to run into a bear, because when you have a group of people and you're talking and making all those noise, and the forest there is so thick, it's most of the time I'm sure the wildlife was seeing us and we weren't seeing them, but they don't really want, like, they hear you coming and they just get out of the way. But I would still run into them with maybe more in my personal time. So, but I never had an aggressive bear encounter. But definitely, like, most of the time ran across more black bears. But I did, in Alaska, it's an Alaska brown bear, but it's the same species as a grizzly. I did see those also. Only one time on the trail we ran into 2 juvenile brown bears. They were still huge. So, but there was a summer where they were like, I would see them often from the safety of my car too. But such beautiful creatures, and also I think it's interesting how, I think one reason I was interested in them was it's this beast that can kill you. So, and there aren't that many. I mean, there's a lot of wild cats, but it's just the bear is so large, and it's something that lives out there that can eat you if it wanted to. So, and I think just that I guess that healthy fear also just kind of fed into that fascination. But yeah, okay, there was a hand over here. Mm-hmm.
I am an artist. I feel like my creative drive is just where I notice people around. Just
Yeah.
texture or
Mm-hmm.
like the way colors are arranged and after.
Yeah.
So with the way you write poetry, how does that change the way you see?
Yeah, it's definitely doing that. I don't know how it's changing compared to how someone else is seeing it, but I definitely maybe I'm noticing I think that all the time there's sort of this feeling where it's like, oh, look at this magic that's happening, or this detail, like that needs to come in somewhere, and I need to remember that, which I hardly ever do. I got to write it down as soon as I can because I have a horrible memory. But I am very interested in visual art. When I was when I was a student, I took a visual arts class every semester. It was just, I liked having another creative outlet, and I really liked seeing how the two disciplines would overlap, like things I would hear those art professors say. I was like, yeah, the same thing is true in writing. I'm going to apply that. So probably in similar ways too, I like seeing those patterns and like seeing how I am definitely very visual, so I like noticing texture and things like that and working it into my poems. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mostly noticed a pattern of them coming out. I rarely kind of know ahead of time something that I want to write before I write it. Usually there's something else that enters me into a poem, whether it's like a detail that I've noticed or that I remember. And I usually start, like my process is I almost always write by hand first when I'm working on poetry, and then it gets transferred and typed up. So oftentimes there's just a process of free writing, and I think that there's this, and I get that it can take practice to trust it, but just letting the poem kind of unfold as you're going, in a way, I feel like writing is an act of faith. Like I don't know what's going to happen. and you write and you see what happens. And like trusting and like kind of feeling your way through. But I definitely noticed a pattern and would just kind of let it come when it happened. But then once I kind of noticed I was doing that, I probably started thinking about it more. There's the last poem in the book. Feedback I got from a couple of my friends in my poetry group, they were like, I feel like there just needs to be one more poem in the book. It's not like done. And I thought about it for a few months, and I had it mostly in my head, and then sat down and wrote it. But that's pretty rare that happens. Yeah.
So there could be a whole class out of
Okay.
Can you give us just a thumbnail sketch of how methods in poetry writing and methods in printmaking intersect and
Okay.
what you've learned from printmaking?
Yeah. So, and I feel like I am still learning printmaking. Like I'm still defaulting. Like sometimes the students come and ask me, we've only done the class twice. They'll come and ask me a question. I'm like, you need to ask Andrew that. So the printmaker in the room. But I'm learning, and I've been watching quite a bit. And I think one of the things that's been really interesting to me is simplifying. So realizing that you don't need that many words to create something that's going to go really well with an image, that, and sometimes simplifying is better. Because you only have an audience member's attention for so long. When you're there aren't very many people that are going to stand right in front of a print and read a really long poem and engage with it in that way. And so I've been thinking about just poetry often operates with tension, and when you were incorporating another art form, you have those two layers of, you have the words, but then you have this other layer of the image, and maybe sometimes it's the color or the texture or whatever it is you carved. But now you have that, even if it's just one word kind of playing off of that imagery, and it's creating sparks. And I think that's been really exciting to kind of play around with, is thinking about how tension works visually and then bringing in the text with it. I don't know if that really answered your question, but anyway. Yeah, you're welcome. I think we are like 1 minute left, if there is one last question. But if not, that's okay. Thank you. This was really fun. Thank you so much for having me.